Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to another Shop Talk. And we are at one of the places in Kansas City that probably a lot of racers frequent and spend a little bit of money at. We are at Motorsports of KC, and I'm here with Brad Harrison. And normally we would say we're going to talk about your racing career.
Don't have one right now.
But it's going to be just a little bit different tonight. We're going to talk about Brad and how he got started in the speed shop business.
Okay.
So we're going to go over that. Brad, I guess you might say that you started in motorsports when you were about 13, 14, probably like a lot of young kids, in that you were out working on cars.
Dad always worked on his own cars, and you just had to learn how to do it if you wanted to own one, so that's what we did.
I'm kind of the same way. I remember I had to be out there changing the spark plugs, doing my own oil changes and
brake jobs and everything else.
Yeah, so it kind of gets you in gear for it, but gets you familiar with an automobile, and like you say, kind of the start for where you're at now. You graduated from college, but after you got out of college, didn't have any direction you were specifically headed, so you started working at Rick's Antique Auto. Now, what did you do at Rick's?
Well, at first I was just a salesman. Rick's Antique Auto was a big mail order company here in town. They're no longer around, but we sold restoration parts for Model Ts, Model As, and I was in the sales room. That was actually my first job out of college, because like you say, I went to college and I didn't see anything there that really interested me.
First, let me interrupt. What was your degree in?
Just a bachelor's of business administration. So it bounced around. It's what it took to get out, is what it was. It was in accounting for a while and some other things, and I enjoyed accounting. But and I decided ahead of time that I was going to stay in Kansas City, because that's where my family's at. And a lot of the jobs, if you really want to use your degree, you have to move, and I wasn't going to move. So anyway, I got out of school and decided to look around, found this job. Eventually I started taking care of customer service for them, and that was kind of a tough job, because well, this company was not very well run. It was a neat company, and it was a growing company, but the owner really had some problems with the way he managed his company. And anyway, I was there about, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years maybe, before I moved on and did some other things.
Moved on, and then that brings up your next opportunity at business and working with car parts. Dale Welch, he starts having a garage sale.
Yeah, I'd bought race car parts from him. He had a speed shop here, a couple speed shops here in Kansas City when I was a kid, and I'd bought some parts from him. At the time, I was welding out in Olathe at a small shop, doing just custom fabricating, nothing to do with race cars, just some custom welding. And started seeing this ad, and every now and then he used to have sales on Saturday. Well, he was advertising something that was happening every night, so I went and checked it out. And he opened it like at 4 o'clock, and he was there till 9 o'clock. And basically it was a consignment deal where you could take your speed equipment in, and he would sell it for you and get a percentage for doing it. And I'd go down there, and there was a lot of neat stuff coming in. And I've owned stuff all my life, so I was there as much to buy as anything else, you know. And I'd always done some selling stuff on the side, parts, and actually did some stereo stuff for a while, selling stereos and all. So I basically hung around there long enough, convinced him that he needed an employee, and I went to work for him.
That's one way to get a job, I guess.
Well, it worked.
Got to move on. 19 years ago, now Ron Millhouse out of Iowa, he opens up what is called Midwest Motorsports, and it's a speed shop, and this shop is the forerunner of Motorsports of KC. Was it then what it is now, or has the customer base changed the shop? Or what was it then, I guess, is what I should ask, but go ahead.
Well, when we started this deal, Ron Millhouse owned Midwest Motorsports up in Iowa, and it was primarily a machine shop and mail order company. And he wanted to open a speed shop here in Kansas City. He was from Kansas City. He was a mutual friend of Dale and I's, and so we got together and worked out a deal that I'd open this store for him, just a one-man deal to start with, and it was right here in this building. And he basically determined this is how much money you got to start with inventory, and so grab a catalog rack and start ordering some parts and see what happens. You know, it was basically the way we did it. And so I put an inventory mixture of parts in here, and as people came in and asked for stuff, if I got asked more than once, I put it in stock, and the stuff that wasn't selling, when I finally got it out of here, it stayed out. So that's kind of how our inventory evolved, and Circle Track Racing was growing, so we just continued to end up with more and more Circle Track parts in here.
I guess that's kind of a business philosophy, is you sell, or you keep in stock what's selling and what isn't.
Yeah, and I didn't know which way it was going to go. I had street rod stuff. I had some truck stuff in here. I found out pretty early on that the people buying truck stuff basically were the guys with the new trucks. The older trucks, there wasn't a whole lot of that business, and the guys that were buying new trucks that wanted that stuff were having it installed at the dealers, so it just really didn't leave a spot in there. And the guys that were asking about stuff was Circle Track racers and some drag racers. But Circle Track racers might buy the same part 3 times in a year, and a drag racer might buy it once in 3 years. So, it was just a different market, and that's how we kind of grew our inventory. And I had some good racers that got us started, and they told me what they wanted, because I really did not have a Circle Track background. When I was up at Dale's, we didn't really do a whole lot with, he was a drag racer, and that's kind of the way that business leaned. But they had patience and let me find the parts for them, and that's kind of how it went from there.
Something just popped into my head, and I hope you can answer this. You're talking about you had some customers that really stayed with you. Can you have any idea, could you throw a name out at me of one of the customers that's been with you for a long, long, long time?
Yeah, and honestly, probably helped me as much as anybody. It was Jeff Morrow out of Topeka. Him and Jerry Covert raced. Jeff is actually racing midgets with his son now. He doesn't have a regular race car, but he drove Jerry Covert's race cars, and Jerry raced out here at Lakeside and still has some race cars. He hasn't been in a race car, I don't think, for a year or two, but that's probably, they helped me as much as anything as far as giving me the time and giving me the knowledge to go ahead and do some research. And when you start researching parts, you find your vendors, and that opens up a whole new area of parts too. So they probably did as good a job as anyway. There was local racers, Tom Charles, Tim Carrick. There was a lot of people that helped me get started. So I have to give them all credit, and I hate to just start throwing names, because you're going to leave people out. But,
right.
But and Jeff, I would have to say, was probably the #1 guy helping me out. So,
like I say, didn't want to put you on the spot, but it just popped into my head. But 9 years ago, you go to your brother with the opportunity to become owners of the business yourselves. And did you have to talk to him very much about this? By the way, your brother's name?
Barry Harrison, yeah. And well, Ron came to me, and basically he decided he was going to sell this store, and he was going to give me first opportunity. And I was honestly at that point thinking about doing something on my own. I just, there's a lot of hours in retail, and I just didn't know if I really wanted to be tied down to something. And I knew that I wasn't going to do the store thing unless I had a guaranteed employee that I didn't have to worry about. So my brother was working for an insurance company, automotive insurance company here in town, and they had a good job. But he's a car enthusiast too, not really a racer, but an enthusiast. And so I just went to him and I says, "Hey, look, this is the deal. I'm going to do it on my own, because I don't want to have to worry about keeping 2 and 3 employees, and I need somebody else that I can count on being just as invested as I am. And this is the deal, and what do you think? And this is the business we've been doing." And he had to think about it a little bit, and I'm sure his wife had to think about it a whole lot, because he had a good job. But it's one of those jobs where it makes you a good living, but it doesn't necessarily make you happy about what you're doing.
A lot of hours.
Yeah, so, but I'm talking about his other job. He saw this as an interesting something to try, and I think he'd always kind of wanted to be in business for himself, and so that's kind of how that came about.
I think we're getting close on time. Folks, we're going to wrap up part 1 because we're getting close on time. So we're going to be back with part 2 here in just a little bit. Once again, we are at Motorsports of KC right out here on State Avenue. And a lot of racers come in here. I see one every time I come in, which has been twice. But we'll be back with part 2 in just a minute.